Okay, before we get started, just wanted to point out a few things that you should be aware of. Never do this installation with your power cord in. In fact, you may even want to hit the power button to drain any sort of power out of the system prior to you installing the hard drive, just to drain all the electric out of the system. Also, I'm not a trained technician, but I've certainly done this a few times on a couple MPCs, so I know that this works. Forgive me for my terminology and forgive me for not having a scripted install. We're getting ready to install a 100 gig hard drive into an MPC1000 from AKAI. Before we get started, the things that you're going to need, you need some sort of screwdriver that preferably has different sized heads that are interchangeable. So, a smaller flathead and a smaller Phillips head, and then you may also want the end that has the larger end, the larger heads as well. You also need the hard drive upgrade kit from AKAI, the HDM10, and that's what this device looks like. And then lastly, you need a hard drive to install into your MPC. For the purposes of this installation, I'm using a Hitachi Travelstar 5K100 100 gig hard drive. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to have to do is remove a set of 3 screws here to get this front panel off of the MPC. So I've put a cloth down so we don't scratch up the MPC, but you want to remove this screw here, then these 2 screws, one here and one here. You can see where the cutout is. Remove those so this front blue piece will actually pop off the MPC. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws. The installation usually takes about 10 minutes, so it's not too long of a process. For this front screw, I'm actually going to use the smaller head Phillips head. Okay, so now that we have the 3 screws out from the front and underneath portions of the front of the MPC, we have to now get this blue strip front panel off. Though I don't recommend doing this unless you need to, sometimes you may actually need to use a flathead tip to just slightly pry this just a little bit so it swings off. Sometimes it's when they're a little tight. So you just remove that front panel. This is where your compact flash and obviously your headphone jacks are. So we set that to the side, and now we're looking at the front of the MPC without that cover plate on it. So as you can see, there's a hard drive slot right here. So as you can see in the HDM10 kit, there are some screws that have come with the kit to help secure your hard drive into this casing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our hard drive set up into the casing and then prepare it for setting it into the MPC. So now we're just going to set the hard drive in place here, and we are going to just make sure that the connection is nice and snug by pushing the hard drive into the 50-pin connector. Now, as far as being able to tell when your hard drive is lined up correctly, just look at the screws in the back here to help determine if you have it in all the way for the solid connection. Right now it looks like we're still off by a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and push it just a little bit further. You can see that the connection gets more snug and secure. And now if we look at the screw holes on the back, everything seems to be lined up accordingly. So now we have the 4 gold or brass screws that we're going to put into the hard drive right now. The other 2 black screws will actually help mount the hard drive into the MPC, so we'll keep those out. Okay, so now the hard drive is in the in the bracket here, and it's nice and secure. Okay, so now we have the HDM10 secured with the hard drive in it, and the front face off of the MPC, and we're ready to actually get the hard drive into the MPC. So all you're going to do is take your hard drive, slide it into the slot here. Now when you get it down, you're going to have to kind of push it a little bit to get it locked into place, and it'll click into place. You'll feel it. So now you can see that we have the 2 screw holes, where there's 2 additional black screws that came with the HDM10 kit. We're going to put those in, and then we're going to seal it up. We have everything in place. We're just going to place the panel back on. You got to get this lip underneath of the far left cover that still is in place. It's just like a little bit of a hinge. So just kind of angle it in, and make sure when you lay the panel down, you're very careful to not damage the headphones and foot switch jacks, as well as the memory card slot here. So you have to definitely be careful by adjusting. Sometimes it's like sometimes the jacks are a little offset. So just kind of push it over and line it up. Do the best you can to get in there without damaging your jacks. There we go, it's in place now. And now we'll just put the flat screw in the front, and then the 2 Phillips head screws in the bottom. Okay, so we just finished up with installing the hard drive. Now we're going to go ahead and turn on the MPC and format the hard drive to make sure that we can use all of the space on the hard drive we just installed. Now, it's important to note, you must have the latest MPC firmware installed in your device for it to read accurately. So make sure you go to akaipro.com, AKAIPRO.com, and download the latest installation for their firmware. So we'll turn on the MPC here. And this may or may not display correctly. Sometimes it does display correctly right out of the box. I'm not sure why, but sometimes you have to reformat. So we're waiting for the MPC to load. We're going to go ahead and hit our mode button, and then we're going to hit the load or save pad. Go to utility, so the F3. Scroll over to hard disk, and it recognizes the hard disk being in here. Hit do it. It'll ask us if we want to erase all files, and since this is a brand new hard drive, we should have no files on it. So let's go ahead and hit do it. I'm just going to format the hard drive. Now after we format the hard drive, we'll go back to the save or load utility, and we should be able to see how much free space we have on our hard drive. Alright, so let's go to the save utility now that it's finished. You can see on the hard disk we now have 95,372 megabytes, which is very close to 100 gig, and we can begin to start to utilize the hard disk space. Thanks for watching the install guide. Hope you guys found it helpful. If you have any questions, comment, but should be pretty straightforward. Thanks.